o'clock. It's fifth Wednesday. So I think we're all liking this. I think it's a great opportunity for us to be able to meet together as a council and as a commission to make sure we're on the same page. I'll just kind of give a little bit of a rundown of what we'll do tonight. But first, before I do that, let me express on behalf of all of us, just thank you for the service, council, and commission that you do. I know oftentimes it can be a thankless job, and often there's a lot of pressure, and there's competing interests and competing views, and just y'all do a wonderful job in just taking that in stride and just trying to do what's best for the city. And it's not always the easiest thing. And so a little bit of money that you make on it isn't enough, but hopefully a thank you makes up for the difference there. The housekeeping, hope you like the new boardroom. We're calling this the boardroom now. The blue sky, that's right, the blue sky. So new chairs, they're a little stiff. Maybe your right hand, you just kind of slide it under here. There's a little push thing, you can adjust the height. So that took me, a couple of meetings to figure that out. So, just pro tip, commissioners. There you go. I felt bad. Somebody here the other day, and they were all the way low, and that was me. Anyway.
I remember that.
It was Councilman Anderson, but eventually.
When you get old, like. Or does it just give up easier? Yeah, just give up.
You learn to ask for help sooner.
That's true.
But there's this, I know a lot of times we're kind of working in 2-week increments. Welcome, Commissioner Cody. Come on in, bud. We're working in kind of 2-week increments, it seems like often, and we're prepping for meetings, and it's a lot of work. So I want to thank you for that too. I know that many of us have been on the planning commission as well before being on the council, and so we understand that role. And I appreciate the time that you take to not only look at the packets, but I know that most of it, maybe all of you, can go out on site and kick the tires and get a little dirt on your shoes and stuff, and just kind of feel it. So thank you for putting in that work. 2 quick things, then I'm going to let Councilman Henderson mention one thing, and then we'll talk about what we're here for tonight. We are going to have a need to update our landscape conservation ordinance based on a few resolutions that were passed by the Washington County Water Conservancy District Board. They collaborated with all of the municipalities and staff to kind of refine that. And so some of their standards are a little less stringent than ours, and then they add just a few little modifications to ours. But the reason that we would need to do that is in order to continue to be eligible for the landscape conversion. So basically the grass rebates. And so I was at a meeting today, and they shared these stats. I wanted to give you an update. So today on people that are using the water efficient landscape program to remove turf and convert to basically desert scape with bushes and trees and just not all that thirsty grass. There's been 439 projects completed, 685,000 square feet of grass removed. That's the equivalent of 12 football fields. This is countywide. Close to 31 million estimated gallons saved annually, over 1.1 million in rebates issued. The average rebate is around $2,500. So that's pretty good. And then those that are pending, that are currently in process, there are 667 projects in progress, assuming a 65% completion rate. An additional 677,000 estimated square footage of grass will be removed in the next, probably throughout the fall. That's another 30 million gallons of water saved per year, and another 1.1 million estimated rebate back to residents throughout the county. So our ordinance we let out is really good. It just needs some minor adjustments before December 1st in order for our residents to continue to be eligible. Council just kind of had a high level discussion on it, but the proper process is that come back through the planning commission and then to the council. So what's Jordan's new title?
Legislative Affairs Director.
Legislative Affairs Director. So Jordan Hess is going to work with the district. He helped kind of draft that original ordinance, and he's going to work with to make that as simple as possible. Start with Plan Commission, chew on it. Plan Commission make a recommendation to council for the final edits and approval. So that was one thing I want to mention. And the other thing, just as a reminder, when we're in these meetings, to the extent possible, if you have a direct influence or a connection with a project, or even kind of an indirect, I'll just encourage you, based on feedback, just to kind of declare, right? And in some cases, you can legally vote if you don't have a direct financial interest in it. But it's really up to you whether or not you want to vote or not, or how you want to do it. But I found maybe, and again, each of you in your appointed or elected positions can choose how to handle. I've always just found it best that if you feel like you have a direct or just a approximate indirect, just to make note of it. And then the best option on that is potentially, my recommendation, not necessarily the law, but my recommendation would be to just maybe excuse yourself from those conversations and then come back on the next item to the extent that you can. And we recognize that we all have lives and careers and things that we do. So just as a reminder on a best practice there for all of us. Councilman Henderson is our, as you know, by council assignment, is the liaison to Plan Commission. And just wanted to give you an opportunity to share a few thoughts on that and what you're seeing.
Sure. Well, appreciate the good job that you guys are doing on our planning commission. It's second to none. You guys are fantastic. I enjoy going and watching you guys. It's not only entertaining, it's informative, and you guys are full of wisdom and making good decisions.
We drink deep, Corey.
That's our number one.
From Cody's
That's the number one bar.
Yeah, so it's all good. I love coming. One thing, the mayor and I had a little discussion from a phone call that we both got the other day, and we thought maybe we can put our heads together and hopefully we can put something into place so that this doesn't happen again. And it's none of our faults, for sure, but so you remember the guy that came in with the 0 lot line with the steel building, okay? And the outcome of that was, your lot line's okay, but you need to armor it with, grouted block, which I thought was a perfect decision. And anyway, I mean, that was the right decision to make, and I fully agree with it. And anyway, so the mayor and I got a phone call the next day or the day after, and he said, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, yeah. And he said, is there any way that we can adjust that decision? And I said, well, I don't think so. The planning commission is, the deciding body on that. And I said, I fully agree with their decision. That was a very wise decision. And he said, and I said, what's going on? And he said, well, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I thought it was going to be a slam dunk. And so I already had all my engineering done and my deposit on the design that was done. I said, he's like, is there any way can I come back and make an adjustment? And I said, well, I said, not really. I said, that's really the right decision. I said, setbacks are there for a reason. And I said, we gave you, an okay on the 0 lot line with some conditions. I said, when you come for an ask like that, you're going to get some conditions. And I said, the planning commission, made the right decision. And anyway, so he got some bad information, I think, from whoever was representing him, that it would be a slam dunk. And so, and he's called me another once or twice since then, trying to, and he said, well, I wanted to appeal it to the, city council. And I said, well, that's your right. And I said, where I stand on it, I said, I stand with the planning commission. I said, you're welcome to call the other, I'm just one of 5, But anyway, afterwards, the mayor and I talked about it because we talked to the mayor as well. But it's partially because he's kind of new at it, hasn't had any experience. But I think the guy representing him has had a lot of experience and should have known that But I was just, the mayor and I were talking, I wonder, is there some kind of, can we have them fill out a piece of paper where they actually read that there's no guarantees when you ask the planning commission? You know what I'm saying? I would like them to actually read it, sign a paper that says, I understand that there's no guarantees,
So
and so they won't move forward with their.
there are guarantees.
So, yeah,
It's your city code. His guarantees were if he had pre-ordered a building, yeah, that could have been installed within the 10-foot setback,
yeah.
I would have told the commission,
That would have been slammed down.
you you can't lawfully deny this because it complies with your standards, right? Now, what he wanted was to ask for a relaxation of your standards
Yeah,
with the guarantee that he would get a 0 lot line in the middle wall, right?
The biggest reason,
What? So-
the biggest reason that died, honestly, was not the lot line issue. It was when the fire chief came on and he said, that won't pass fire code, so you won't get a building permit. He's like, you have to come up with a 1 hour rated firewall to be on there.
yeah,
And we looked it up and I mean, granite block wall is your easiest bet there now. So if he did come and appeal, I mean, the number one thing is he would have to have an engineer with a UL fire rating showing a 1 hour rated firewall with whatever he's already pre-ordered that's gonna work. And if you could do that, then okay, but that was really the main reason why we struck it down, is the fire chief came out and said, you're not gonna get a building permit with it.
Right, so this is what I told him, I said, we know two things, I said, this is what we do know. I said, if you build it with the block wall, you're good. I said, or if you come back with your setback, you're good too. I said, those are your two options,
Yeah.
you know, but he's still, you know, I think he's, you know.
I just want to add this real quick, because it might be relevant. So just yesterday, I happened to have lunch with Matt Lou, which just happened.
Yeah.
It happened yesterday. And I was talking to him about other things unrelated. And I said, what's your guy gonna do? He goes, you know what, Jason, I met that guy right before the meeting. So I wasn't,
Perfect.
so when you said he should have known, absolutely, Matt knows,
Yeah.
but the guys that represented him before, something happened and dropped him, and so he asked Matt to step in. And so I think that you're right, somebody sold him a bill because it wasn't right, or told him to send up.
And I know, and
So it's not Matt that did it.
Okay.
I'm glad you clarified that, and I know that Thad had a really good conversation, and frankly told him that your appeal isn't to the council, it's to the 5th District Court.
Yeah.
But we love to give the hard things to Thad and Jeremy.
I mean, it's, of course, the attorney's gonna say that the code is the guarantee, but that's what we talk about laws being non-discriminatory and having due process, right?
Yeah.
If he wanted to rely on city code and then we changed it on him, he would have a claim against us. He wanted to rely on a standard that wasn't in city code, and he took that risk.
Yeah, and I've talked to him probably.
And he still got approved, like I
An hour and a half,
I said, what are you appealing? Nobody ever appeals approvals.
Yeah, that's what I told him, I said, okay, build it with the block wall and you're good, you know, but he keeps arguing with
That makes
me.
sense why he had such an issue, like, we're like, well, just move your setback back, cause he said, I'm not trying to make it to be boat garages, I don't care about the size.
Yeah,
But he wanted that setback, it's because he already ordered the material.
he already
He said, well,
did the engineering
he said, well,
too,
it's
and
not.
so it made more sense to me too when he called me, so I'm just thinking, Mayor and I were talking, it's like, can we have them sign something so that. I don't
You
know.
can, but it'd be very redundant, because it's
Yeah.
just built in the system. When you apply, you're going for an approval, but also a possible denial. Everybody
Yeah.
knows that, but
Well, and I love the way that Councilman Henderson has handled this, and even if we don't go to the extent of having them sign something, I think the point that we both agreed on was we just need to be really careful not to lead an applicant, whether intentionally or not, to feel like they're going to get an approval.
Maybe even put on
It's just,
on the form.
the code is the code.
If
If you're asking for something that's outside of the code, then really you can make your case, and we make no, we make no preconceived.
What's interesting though too is like even the engineer, like an engineer,
If the engineers,
Would
they
know
don't
that.
care, if he hires the
If he hires
building,
them, that's the building they
unless
say.
unless the engineer's getting a lot of push from the owner.
It just depends on, it was the applicant.
no, what was
the
his
engineer
name?
will do whatever.
So we're being recorded. No, he's local, he's a local resident.
Oh, I thought this was.
Yeah, he's local.
No, this is local.
Yeah, he's a city
You
resident.
were gone that day. I was gone that day. Because I would told him, building code requires you're on zero property line, it's non-combustible material.
Yeah.
So even if you give him the exception, he's not going to be able to.
No,
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 so
we would
it's
not,
not-
we would have
Right.
to be going against.
And that's why we said what we did, we're like, let's just take the easy route and say, boom, you can build it if you do this,
You meet the building code.
right?
Well, you're doing a great job, Councilman.
No, I was just gonna say, you guys made the absolute right decision. And I just told him, you know, he was, you know, I said, look, that planning commission has years and years and years of combined experience in this kind of stuff between you guys. And I said, they made the right decision for you, for future property owners, for the adjacent property owner. I mean, all of that stuff. You know, we talked for a long time about it. I think he gets it.
All the cameras seeing is the back of your head.
Am I
which is
just
awesome.
eliminating the,
Can we draw on the back? Thank
I've got a heavenly effect on cameras.
you, Councilman. And then, Councilman Ivy has to be excused. He's traveling with family. And so, and then I know the council will be here tonight, a little later. I'm gonna ask to be excused at 6:45. I've got a 7 o'clock engagement.
One more
Please.
comment,
Go ahead, Jeremy.
just so I'll stand up so everybody can see me, but one more code comment. Last time we talked about the city has to rewrite all of our code based on the new legislation, the legislature. We talked about ways we're going to do that, but it really, really brings up this idea of working on our code as well as our general plan to make sure that the code is exactly what you as a planning commission and city council want to see. Because the way this is headed with this legislative bill and just the way it's headed in general is we need to have our code be what decides whether a project passes or doesn't pass, rather than adding all the conditions to things. So if we don't like something, we need to go fix the code, rather than coming in and saying, well, you know, I don't like this. It feels like it needs 20 more parking spots, and we add that as a condition. Up to this point, the developers have been able to accept that, but the legislature is really pretty serious about saying our job is administrative, which means if those preliminary plats go to the planning commission, your job is to look at it and say, does it meet code or not? Not, do I like it or not? So if we don't like something, we have an avenue to correct it, and it's correcting the code, right? Does that make sense? So,
But it's unfortunate because we're gonna go from one end of having a more looser code that you can get better product to, then we're gonna have staff that is just gonna, and it's unfortunate, because I've worked in jurisdictions where it's like, no, this is the code, I don't care. And it doesn't matter how you meet the code, they just want you to meet the code so they can check the box. And I'm gonna help that our staff is workable within that code so that we can have creative design and not just black or white. But they are forcing us to be more black or white, which is unfortunate, but that's where we're headed because the legislature did what they did.
I guess my comment is there's probably gonna be a lot of code adjustment, not just the code to get us in compliance with state law, but other codes that maybe we've been a little more relaxed on that we may have to get more tightened down. Now, we can write code with some leeway in it, but what happens is the developers and the builders want to be able to take our code, design to that code, and have an expectation that if they've designed to the code, if they're well within it, like we're talking about with this developer, then they have an expectation of passing. Sometimes as staff, where we get crosswise a little bit with developers is we help them to develop to the code and we get all the way to the end and then something else comes up that they've never heard of. And then they like to go back to Drew and say, why didn't you tell me I needed 20 more parking spots in the beginning? And Drew says, because I didn't know you did. I didn't find that out. And then that helps them want to go past the staff, past the planning commission, straight to the council, because they want to know what that end goal looks like. Where we need to draw the code to point them to the end goal. And then if there are little adjustments along the way, we, like Councilman Coates mentioned, we can make those little adjustments. But by and large, the code needs to inform the way that the development happens, not sort of the other way around. Anyway, that's my only comment.
So as you're seeing that, if you have recommendations, bring that back through Councilman Henderson and however you think, and we'll get that through to staff and obviously code amendments will go through both these bodies. But one of the big things that this council has rightfully so wanted to do is this an update of our general plan. And so we feel like it's timely also with the changes to the land use authority, with the plan commission also being that approving body on single family and some multifamily residential product. We think it's more critical than ever to just make sure that that our general plan, and particularly the land use maps, are what we feel like they should be, so that when applicants come through this process, they can come through with that reassurance. So this is a starting. So tonight, what I'd like for us to do is we'll spend about an hour, a little over an hour from now, going over the general plan land use maps. We'll have just kind of a moderated discussion and input together on this. Then afterwards, we've got Rock Tacos upstairs in the courtroom. We'll eat dinner till just before 6. At 6 o'clock, we've got a public open house. You're welcome to hang around for that. Planning Commission Council is going to be there. And then and that open house ends at 7 o'clock. But this is, so that's kind of the rundown for tonight. But this is a process for us to start taking public input. The other things that I think we'll likely see that I'd recommend to the council and want the Planning Commission to be involved in too, is that after we start taking this feedback tonight, that we not only continue to schedule some feedback, and maybe that looks at like some open houses in different neighborhoods throughout the city. But I think it's also time that throughout this fall that we consider a professional to help us during the course of next year to update our general plan. Councilman Martins, did you tell me how long it's been? I know you were involved as a planning commissioner last time. Has it been
2017.
since 2017?
It was finally adopted the first part of 18, I think.
So 6 or 7 years-ish.
Yes, 6 years.
So that'll be one thing that this council wants to work on as a goal, and I fully support that. So that's kind of what we'll do. Staff starting to kind of keep their eyes open for some professionals, some consultants to come in and kind of help us through that process. If you have some that you've worked with in the past and like to, let's get them. But we think that consultant ought to be approved by the elected body and then move forward. I think I haven't been through a general plan amendment before. Some of you maybe have, I haven't. But I see the Planning Commission being a big part of that. And then just in conversation with the council, we wanted to start with that conversation today without any real bumpers, just open discussion on what does this general plan look like, those land use designations. We can go, area by area, or we can just kind of start and see where it goes. Councilman Coates, so kick it off.
I got a question for Drew and Jeremy. Because I get confused sometimes. My old age, how many times can they apply for a general plan change anytime they want?
Anytime. Our code right now, we used to, when I first started here, we only did them every quarter.
I think that's where I'm coming. I actually think we should change it to every quarter, because I like the idea that, hey, if you're gonna change it, that's fine, but we get 4 times a year to look at it. And it's not a set, I guess we'd have to set the end of each quarter. And then we would have any general plan changes come up, and then it's not every week you got someone else, and you can sit back and look at a plan together, not just one-offs. I would like to change it to every quarter to make it consistent. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are.
On the Planning Commission, it's a huge frustration when you get these random one-off, and like the last one, like Pete and I both voted no, even though we both said we totally agree this needs to be commercial. It's just we thought the whole entire street should be commercial. And we're like, we really should look at this as a whole.
I think that's where this council was.
A few little pieces. We're like, it's just a mess.
A little different proportions, but yeah.
Because I thought.
We were voting no, even though we said yes, it should be commercial.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's why I voted no, because I thought it should just be commercial, because I think we all agreed potentially it could be commercial.
I don't like the one-offs at all.
That's where I'm getting at.
Well, you still may end up with one-offs, but it's just, and the reason we changed, because so many years ago, we didn't have hardly any of them, so we thought, why are we making somebody, was we only getting one every now and then, so we just thought, to make it easier, because the mayor at that time was Clove, and the council had some people, hey, why do we have to wait? And, we started looking, well, we don't have that many, why don't we just have them, to try to help out and save some time, but now things have kind of gone the other direction. It seems like everybody's trying to come in, and most of them we have to say, well, that's gonna take a general plan amendment. We try to talk most of them out of it as much as possible, but we're getting more and more of them because the good stuff's gone, right?
Is to get our general plan really close to what everybody wants.
Hold it.
So we're not We're not having to change it every week either.
That's the thing that makes the public the maddest, is because I mean, if you have a vested, you know, if it's general plan for something, they really kind of have a vested, you know, say in what that property can become. It can be zoned, you know, this or that.
Yeah.
But if it's general plan for something and people have lived there forever and suddenly we change it, that makes people really mad because they're like, well, wait a minute, it was always general plan
For this.
for this.
I just want to make sure that there's a distinction that's important. Land use law permits an applicant to submit to amend the general plan as to their parcel. The process that the council's commencing tonight is a broad general plan review that might result in a general plan change or multiple general plan changes in multiple places. But land use law requires us to allow somebody to apply to amend the general plan as it relates to their
There's
property.
certain state statute.
And the reason why is that flows into their zoning too, right? And so we're required to let them apply for it. We don't have to grant it. The boards and.
No, I know, I'm just saying that's the thing that's gonna raise the most public ire, so the less often we can do it, the better.
Correct. And so when Drew said we did it quarterly, it was the same thing you saw last week. They just only allow it to come 4 times a year.
What if it was twice a year? Is that too?
Well, I was just about to propose, we could go every 4 months. I don't know if twice a year is a little out there for some, especially if they just missed the deadline. But, you know, sometimes quarter is too quick, maybe. If we're trying to really keep hold and control that, I would actually maybe say we go 3 times a year, you know, like on this date, then 4 months, 4
It's
months.
not bad. If you had enough projects all in the same area, it might be enough for the council to, hey, okay, we should really look at this spot, because everyone's wanting to change.
And I
it.
want you to know too, while we're doing, it, Tara's taking notes. So she's taking notes of this
You're all on
conversation.
camera, you're saying, right?
And you're on camera,
That's
yeah.
why I'm back here.
But let me play devil's advocate just a little bit. So let's say we move to biannual, 3 times a year or quarterly, and all of a sudden somebody starts pressuring Councilman Coates, hey, we gotta get
I'll
this.
say, I'm the one that made it.
Go talk to
But
someone.
I'm not 4/3. I think quarter's adequate, because it takes 2 to 3 months just to get things figured out. You just gotta plan accordingly, and other municipalities around here do the same thing. So I just don't think it would be different if we did quarterly than the other municipalities, and it just brings it down. Like, yes, it's gonna be time when they give us pressure, right? But they give us pressure, why does it take so long to get through our process? And they went and
It would almost
they went
be,
to the legislator and took it out of our hands too. So we definitely have. Don't worry about the pressure.
it would almost be nice if on our 5th Wednesday meetings, we just kind of glance at it. And maybe that schedule comes so that it's on the month after those 5th Wednesdays, so that we have a chance to kind of see the general plan and keep it top of mind together. I mean, maybe.
If we can be the applicant, I think that's what you're saying, right, Mayor?
Well,
You may sit in
I'm
the
saying that,
bottom.
but I'm also saying though, I think it's important for these 2 bodies to continually have that general plan and like big picture. Because I think what got both these bodies a little nervous was just what we call spot zoning, but spot general planning, but maybe we just make that a practice to just kind of review those general plan things and how they fit in these meetings before, and maybe that pattern becomes the month after the 5th Wednesday joint meetings.
Yeah, the mayor
Can
thinks-
those be leaked out to us a little early as they come in?
Well, they'll be planned, they'll be set, right? If we're gonna go to those, we know it's gonna be the first planning commission on whether it be, you know,
Whatever
March
month.
or July, we're just gonna say, and then the following week it goes to city council. We'll just know those are locked. You'll
Because there you
know.
have about 4.
In fact, you look and say, oh,
Wednesdays a
nobody
year.
made an application in this
Okay.
quarter.
And
But
then
you know those are always gonna come on that.
I like the idea of the 5th Wednesday, but it might not always line up. I'd rather just set it quarterly. Hopefully it works.
Well, maybe we do that, but on those 5th Wednesday meetings, we just take a few minutes to review general plan, just so that we're always cognizant of it and on the same page. And are we seeing any conflict points from either body or from staff? Maybe we just kind of make that up.
Mayor, if I just want to point out one other thing, in the general plan for the one we have now, they actually had a big discussion on this about spot this and spot that, because it was the fields where they had the most issue, wondering where is it gonna go? We don't know. Which farmer is gonna sell out first or second or third? We don't know. So they actually put a paragraph in that general plan that said, we're not specifically gonna say certain intersections. We're gonna let that come as a case-by-case basis and what seems to will. So we're specifically not designating anything. So when people come in, we can look at them and say, yeah, that's probably like the one we looked at. Everybody knows that's a great fit on that corner, right? I don't know if anybody here is against that. They know that's a great fit, and that's kind of fits with that that paragraph was all about saying, yeah, that would be a perfect place to put it. And that's why we did specifically hit a particular thing. And they wanted it to be more neighborhood, pop here, pop there, coming in instead of whole strips, because that's where you start. I mean, I love to see it as a planner, but I can also see where a lot of people feel, man, that's really taking a whack at us of what we're used to.
But where I started getting nervous, and maybe kind of in the last meeting where I kind of started to just ask Drew to pull up the maps and along Washington Fields Road to say, okay, where do we have these general plan commercial? My little bit concern is that you've got permitted uses and conditional uses, and you might start to get heavy on some of those conditional uses, and that's where planning commission is gonna say, hey, if we got a gas station here, for example, and a gas station here, do we really need one here? Right? And so it starts to make, I don't know, but it starts to make me nervous. I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure that that's when you start to use your judgment.
But it's hard because if it's a permitted use in the zone, all you can do is make conditions on that zone, you just can't deny it.
So technically.
I'm talking a conditioned use though, in that particular example.
But that would only be a PUD, right?
I guess they could apply for PUD if we were talking gas station, they could come and apply for a PUD or a conditional use permit, either one.
Yeah, but if it's a straight C zoning, and they can put a gas station.
Even though it's conditional use, but as long as they mitigate everything out that you may give them, you still have to give it.
So they could still have one on both sides. I like PUDs. I think you get to see what you get, right? I'm more for those to help see what you get and then move forward. But
Not have a surprise.
I like the PUDs, although I think we need to educate some of the applicants a little better though, because some of them, they're treating the PUD as if it's a straight zone thing, and we're getting it's a whole PUD and we're getting, piecemeal. Here's phase one, I want this.
Yes.
And we need to be like, if you're doing PUD, this is what a PUD looks like, and a lot of them don't, they just don't know.
And you got to.
And so they submit something, we're like, this doesn't look like a PUD.
Because they have planned 1/4 of that.
Right.
They know they can lock in.
And I think we need to be like,
Bring the full
we don't
picture.
even let it come, like, no, that's not a PUD application.
I'd like to stay on this topic a little bit more. Drew, Eldon, what would you add to that? Because we've seen some of those examples where we've had 3 out of 10 puzzle pieces come on PUD application, and that's frustrating because you don't see the full.
Right.
What are your guys' thoughts on that?
No, I think they should bring a whole plan, and if they have to come back an amendment, fine and dandy, but then we're giving them something that we like, and it gets back to this thing we just talked about. Build it like this, and you don't have to come back. This is what we all agreed on, go and do it, even though you don't have that specific grocer or that specific, office or that specific restaurant, you're still approved for that.
You're approving the
You're
design
approved for that,
and use.
and
of-
design, here you go. Now, if you want to come back an amendment, you're gonna come through the process again of the public hearing and doing all that. And I think that's really what we ought to do, because if we just keep letting them piecemeal this thing, we're not gonna gain anything of what we're trying to protect, right? With our looks and everything else, it's gonna be piecemeal, basically store by store, and we're trying to get out of that. So, I mean, if that's the direction they want to go and choose,
That's how they're gonna build, right?
it is.
You tell us, that's how they wanna build. They wanna build one piece at a time. They're not gonna build 6 buildings.
Well, yeah, it
That's
all
fine,
depends on.
but we still need to
know
what it's gonna look like. No, I agree.
Design and use.
Design and use, I feel like then change the signage on the front to match whatever store that's coming in, that's fine. But the general look of the buildings and whatnot needs to
The
be.
framework.
Exactly. You can make that work.
If you need to move a building, a restaurant from here to here, come in and amend it, like Drew's saying, it's not a big deal to move the buildings, you still have the same amount of buildings and it's approved, you just wanna change where they're at in the layout.
The site plan.
Or in our ordinance, we could even do, I mean, if you want to give flexibility to staff, you may or may not, I'm just saying, if it's equal, unless we feel, or we could write it to where we give a little flexibility, because that's what we were talking about earlier, right? Instead of black, and white, I call it flexibility.
I'm not saying flexibility, let staff make that decision, because that has to come back to the council decision. The planning commission decision on going through if they're changing a PUD. If they're changing, they just gotta go back through the process and say, hey, here's our new site plan, nothing else
Yeah, but I
changed.
think Pete was saying if they're still doing the same number of buildings, the same look, but they just moved it. I'm not saying it
I
was
just
a
think it
complete
should go
thing.
back through because you had to look this way and you can change that quite a bit. and make it look totally different, because what you're gonna get is you're gonna get people that are gonna do whatever they like and then change it after.
It would be, have to be like a specific case or a specific
That's what
reason,
I'm
I
saying.
think, for
Yeah.
council to say, okay, we know what we're getting here, we're okay to let staff give some flexibility.
Yeah, I'm not trying to take over that. I'm just saying if it's minor and something that doesn't alter too much, I'm trying to help the public out too, and I think all of
They
you
wanna
are.
move a tree. So if you're moving buildings, that changes a lot. You know what I'm saying?
So let's
Let's
talk.
go back through the piece bodies.
Council Henderson might not agree with that though, with the
Shade tree committee.
Especially if it's a shade tree.
He doesn't want to try to.
it on a case by case.
Depends on what tree it is. If it's not a shade tree, it's fine.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I think one thing, if, especially with these PUDs, if we're trying to encourage certain type of architecture, or certain type of look or whatever in certain areas, the one hard thing I think for some developers, or agents or whatever the case may be, is that, certain ways of building are more expensive than others, and it makes it harder to pencil. I think one thing we need to do is, if we're trying to encourage certain things, we've got to have some carrot and stick, be like, okay, well, this is what we want here. And if but by complying with this higher level of architectural standards or whatever, offer some incentive, just like we do with bonus density or whatever. I mean, some sort of thing that helps make the project pencil. So the city still gets what they want. They get the look, the architecture they want, but the people bringing the projects in, they're okay doing that with the additional costs added to that because they got something else that helped make the project pencil better. I mean, whatever the case may be, but I think we'll get a lot more buy-in with building things the way we want if we can. Because again, they're just looking at the bottom line, like, is it gonna pencil or not? And if we have all this additional cost, we're like, well, I'm not doing that because it's too much money. But if we have, some flexibility there to where it will pencil, I think that'll make it easier.
The question for design guidelines, which I think part of us want to go there. If I'm speaking for a bit, there's part of us that don't. So we want to find something in between.
Right, I'm just saying, if we're trying to impose some sort of design guidelines, you gotta make it workable.
So the issue is there's really nothing to give them, right? Because the only thing we could give up, because we don't have limit of square footage, they just have to meet setbacks and meet parking, and they can do whatever they want. So there's not much incentive we can give out,
Pete, jump in and I have a comment on that.
Well, I was just wondering, I mean, Jeremy was just saying that about the new legislation, where they wanted to make it more black and white. Now, is this gonna, by doing this, it makes it less black and
On
white?
residential straight zoning.
Oh, I'm just on straight zoning, but not
Residential,
Okay, that's what I
single
want, that's what I want to make sure.
Apartments and commercial are still the standard.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
I mean, if it has to do with apartments, you say, hey, I want this look, but we'll get more
A
density.
little more
If
density.
you were with,
See, the thing on those lines that I'm willing to work on is parking on commercial areas if they're mixed use.
maybe it makes you could work with parking, or maybe you could work with, impact fees. I don't know, I mean, it's something, I'm just saying, there's gotta be some
Some
way
give and
to
take.
encourage people to do these more expensive.
And I think that's kind of the value, like Councilman Coates says, of the PUD approach. But I'll give you one really good example, I think, of, and I think we found a good balance of design guideline, right? Without just having this list of do's and don'ts, with having, and we've had some fails, but mostly we've had successes. And I think the junction down on Washington Fields Road down by Crimson is an example of a really good success, because the Hoops came in initially, they wanted this, and it was a good site plan, it was good elevation, but they worked with our architects. And not only did they get a better site plan for them and for the city, better elevations, but they also got more space. They were able to go vertical and get more square footage. So that brings value, it makes it pencil. So I think in those situations, that's a really good example of how to incorporate some design guidelines into a PUD approval. It's not perfect, but I think, I like that conversation, because I think that's what the council is gonna start working more with, is more of these commercial projects, and you're gonna still recommend on that, so you wanna vet that as a land use expert. But then on the residential, we gotta make sure that we have those, the designations and the zones, the way that the elected body feels, so that the land use experts, so you can approve based on that, because it's the legislation even says that we could have a staff or a combination of staff and planning commission be that authority. And we've agreed that we think the planning commission should be that and take the recommendations from staff, but it doesn't come to us at that point. So that's why, again, why we want to be looking at these maps and saying, what, and maybe that's where we start tonight. Maybe we pull up, Drew, the overlay of those residential areas And we kind of started saying, okay, because to me, that's kind of the most pressing thing is, what are our general plan land use designations for residential? And then do we dive in a little bit more into some of those specific zonings, and are we comfortable in those areas?
Is there a land use, is there a designation for, say, mixed use? Let's say we want mixed use in a certain area. I mean, right now, it seems like it's either residential or it's commercial. We don't really have
We have
a place to say, hey, we want mixed use.
Mixed use along Telegraph from
Yeah,
300 to 300.
But other than that, it would just come under PUD.
And maybe that's, I don't know if
I think there are
that's.
certain areas of mixed use kind of lends itself well, like Main Street corridor, Telegraph,
Do you-
that where you want more walkable.
So, this is
Where do you wanna go,
probably,
Mayor? Just
this is probably the last place we should. Washington Hills Road and George Washington Boulevard.
Okay.
And this may be not productive at all, but like, while I've got here, this is an open public meeting, it's recorded, it's public's invited here. But if you look at that intersection, if you take that cross section, the Anderson's parcels are on the southeast and southwest of George Washington Boulevard. So that piece where your cursor is 12 acres, 10 of it's there. If an applicant came in and said, hey, we want to bring some commercial along those busy roads, but we need to make it pencil, we want to put in some higher density along the back, along the trail and along those, there's a few houses there and then some townhomes. I mean, as a mayor, how do I respond to that? Do I say yes? Do I talk? I mean, I don't have a yes, but I say bring it forward. It's because right now, overlay it with the general plan and maybe the zoning. So right now, that's all overlaid with what, CCOM, so community commercial?
community commercial, which is C2, C3.
So that's a lot, that's your heavy commercials.
In those
C3 is your heavy, big box is C3, regional, what we call regional.
So is that what that is?
This is more C1, C2, I think that you'd be looking in community commercial.
But
You
if
probably
it's-
wouldn't want a big, I mean, they could bring it forward and ask if it's not
I know, but.
massive, but
So we don't know what's happening with the farm. I think the farm's gonna be there for a long time. I would say.
So which one are you talking about?
I'm talking Staley Farm.
So the farm probably yes.
So the farm, yes. Now, as far as the Andersons goes, it depends on when they decide to develop. I don't think it's anytime soon.
So it's possible that the east side or the west side of Andrews property could develop sooner than later. I don't know for sure, but it's from some of the things I'm hearing.
that, if it's gonna give up and the person who, that they're gonna cave or start to cave, it would be over there. It's not gonna be on the roping arena right now.
But I think those need to be commercial on the south side of 36.
So I guess my question is would there ever be an appetite for there to be some element of residential to activate that commercial?
This is the bottom of the Staley Farm piece discussion too.
No.
They came in and they asked for PUD.
Well, yeah, we're talking about the type of
They
use,
asked for
maybe
mixed
not that
use.
specific project. That-
Yeah.
I guess that's what you're asking right now is this group willing to entertain commercial, residential, to what like the tag and go people drop, but not.
I'm willing to entertain commercial. That's what's there.
My vote,
Yeah.
we have so few commercial pieces in the city, I would like to see it just like that, all red commercial.
But the farm's not gonna change, so that's gonna be ag for a long time.
Yeah, up here is not gonna
But,
change.
but everything else, I mean,
I don't know that you can say that.
Is commercial.
I mean, you can say it, but I don't know that I believe that on things that could happen.
Well, I think
Have you
someday
met
it will
Sherry?
change.
Huh?
Have you met Sherry?
No.
She doesn't wanna leave.
I've
I'm
met
not being
Sherry.
rude.
But we're just,
No,
we're
but-
talking 30 years down the road that.
So
something
Doug
might
makes a
change.
good point because Ralph was never gonna sell a farm either.
Right.
So, commissioners seen a thing or two.
Well, the irony, I mean, that low density piece right there, when we started, that one was supposed to have been, it was medium high density, it was gonna be, towns all of a sudden it changed to low density.
We literally
Oh,
went
right.
to the applicant and said, there should be high density
Which is
right
strange,
here, and they
really.
said, no, we want low density.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's because
That's the
big
opposite
lots
of
were
what it
selling
is.
for a lot of money.
No,
That's why.
no, they wanted higher density, we wouldn't let it. That's
Well,
what-
initially, and then afterwards, I know.
No, like, we changed it from
'Cause
very
it's
low
sold.
density to
Yeah.
low density.
Yeah,
So-
and it's sold. so.
And we know it's right up against that corner, but it's with the canal, it made sense to me. I mean, but so I think we've decided that let's just talk the northwest corner, it's commercial, they're moving forward with commercial, I don't think that's changed.
Yeah.
The northeast corner, a portion of that's gonna be commercial. So it just depends on how much.
I mean, the big retailer, with
I don't
some
know.
pads around it,
I'm just saying that
potentially.
I would like to see all that commercial. I'd like to see commercial on all of that right there, but in the farm area, I think someday it might go commercial. But I'm gonna say never, but for
The
the
way
next.
they're
few years-
operating, it is commercial.
Yeah, we don't wanna go that.
Let's go down that one.
Unlicensed commercial.
Well, a lot of it comes down to what kind of parking lots do you want, you know, if it's commercial, you have lots of parking lots, lots of cars. If you have mixed use, you still have parking lots because other people are coming there, but you have less parking and
See,
more walking.
parking,
But we are a destination community out there. There's
No, I know, I'm
there's
just
no
saying,
way
in
we're
general,
gonna-
whether it's here or anywhere else,
It's-
mixed
it's-
use is gonna have less parking
Yeah,
than.
I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying is for this type of commercial, I don't see it, I see it as more of a, you're gonna drive there and enjoy your experience there once you're there. You're still gonna have to drive there. It's just, there's just too much low density around it, not enough high rises.
Okay, let's pivot. Are there any more comments on that area for commercial?
I was just
I
gonna
think everybody
say,
likes what's there, it sounds like.
I think the residential component of that one development is what kind of went to, made it go down, you know.
Well, they're asking
And
too
so-
much, right? We can all agree. I think they're
Yeah,
asking
so
way too much.
what Drew said is a good idea. What are we gonna accept?
What is the percentage? I
Only
guess, that we
commercial
want for
or
mixed
just-
use, and we go PUD?
And I'd like your feedback maybe on that Andrews piece too. I mean, with just kind of a straw poll of council. I mean, do you see that there could be some sort of a residential component on the southwest corner on the Andrews piece?
I'm gonna say no
Okay,
for me.
noted.
Isn't the one piece right next to it, the hoops?
No,
Hoops is further
down.
south.
Further south.
Stay on this piece for just a minute. I just straw poll.
Will you have, Drew, will you point to which one he's talking about? Not the Meredith.
This is the southwest, this is
Okay.
the Andrus property, that's nothing on it, no homes, no cattle, no
Excuse
nothing.
me, sometimes they have a few steers.
I think they do.
Tumbleweeds.
And then they live on this over here and they got the roping, the arena, and that's where Dixie and her son Brock live right now, is right here in the home. So,
So I mean, there's an awkward little piece there, that little triangle piece.
Stay on that west side, Drew.
I mean, I'm talking further over west, southwest, just where it gets awkward, the triangle piece. I mean, I guess.
this one?
No, bottom
Oh,
left.
bottom left,
Right
southwest. I mean, could part of that be, I mean, I
Step back
agree
in the
with
corner.
Councilman Coates, but I mean, if it,
It's gonna be their detention.
yeah.
That's in Councilman Coates' backyard, so be careful. Isn't that your backyard?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, it's.
How high of a
So
building
I know
can we do right there behind Craig's house?
35 and then we
45
Well, they're allowed 45 in commercial, we've given that. Buildings can be 45 feet in a commercial zone if they get it zone commercial.
So this is kind of an interesting concept though, between general plan and zoning. Like when we're talking general plan, we're saying commercial. And then when we start narrowing down to the uses, we're saying, because, you can ask for a PUD and ask for residential and commercial. So these are two interesting discussions, but they kind of layer on top of each other. The first discussion is that community commercial still the right general plan for this area? And I think everybody's kind of nodding yes. Then the question is, do you push them towards PUD zoning? And then we would kind of do like we did a couple of weeks ago, where maybe we would have them come in and present a real concept,
On
early
some of the-
concept of what they want to do. And
If they bring a full PUD
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Well, and part of that conversation, and then we need to move to residential, but part of that conversation is, so just east of Lynn's, south of the elementary school, Riverside Elementary, the church had 4.5 acres. I guess Property Reserve had 4.5 acres of commercial and about 15.5 of residential approved. They went in recently and they now general plan that all 20 acres as commercial. So it starts to put pressure on, is St. George gonna do the same thing they've done in a lot of their, on their borders, is put a lot of their commercial on their peripheral and take, kind of benefit from our residents' taxpayer dollars going there. So at some point, it's like, we have to venture into some commercial into our neighborhoods in order to provide the services with the roads and the public safeties and et cetera. And I know the council gets that, but I hear that kind of stuff, I'm like, it gets me a little hot under the collar. Hope they're not watching.
That's fine.
Hi, St. George.
They don't worry about
So
us.
that's why I think this one should be all commercial, because it's going to catch a lot of people coming up Southern Parkway in the future. And I don't know, unless we have a residential shortage that we need, I just continue to see this as all commercial would be what I would say.
Is that kind of the general consensus then?
I like mixed use. I think it looks good. I think it gets water traffic, but not at the expense of losing the commercial. I think mixed use on, say, a second, third floor, second, third story. I didn't like going 4 stories with mixed use, but I think second and third story to make a project pencil and to give it a little more walking, flavor and everything. When if you said, no, we're just doing straight commercial, it'd just be one level and there you go. I think I like the mixed use. I just don't like where they obliterated a third of all the commercial just to put apartments in.
But Commissioner, are you saying as part of an overall plan?
Sure.
Then that's something.
I think that's fine,
that
as
would
long as
be-
we don't obliterate the main level commercial that's there. I mean, in the project, in the Tag and Go one, the problem was a third of the whole entire project was just apartments and it was no commercial at all. And then what was residential was 4 stories and it was way over the limit. I think if it would have been at the limit, second, third stories were the mixed use, and we had commercial on the whole entire main floor of the whole thing, I think that would have been great.
Yeah, good point.
I like mixed use, I just don't like losing commercial at the expense of mixed use.
I like that, good comment. Drew, take us to some areas, this general plan better than anybody. In the interest of 20 or 30-minute discussion, take us to some areas on residential zoning that we may or may not want to take a look at. We could start in the fields and go
Merrill Road's a
north.
great one.
Yeah.
Say that,
Merrill Road's a great one.
we'll start there.
That piece that came through a couple.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a little commercial.
Now, you guys are probably saying, well, why did the city do
that?
Well, I think I gave the history on one of the nights, but this was the deal to get Larry Abb to sign off on getting the road through his property. He said, I want this on each side of this street to be neighborhood commercial. Well, he wanted commercial. We said, okay, we'll give you neighborhood commercial. I don't think he realized the big difference, so we gave him those 2 squares to get him to sign the road agreement. That's how that ended up being for that. So in case you were wondering.
So that's the boundary of St. George and.
Well, here, I'll
So you have county property.
That's not the boundary of St. George and Washington, that's the boundary.
there's an island, okay? You can see
Unincorporated.
everything that isn't yellowish, all that green color, because that's the field, Liberty.
Adams
County. It's an island that the county's in the county. But, and it won't come over until Larry is gone. I mean, he's wrote that in that after he's gone, he doesn't care, but while he's alive, that will never go into the city.
And Larry's kind of like Steven Tyler,
Yeah, so
he's never gonna die.
Neither side.
He's fun to see though.
Yeah.
And you know what, they do a lot of really good farming and.
Now the question's gonna be, and this is one I'm just throwing out of discussion, not that I'm going there, is this very low density category. That's what I think is gonna be what people are gonna be pushing for, because that's 15,000 square feet or more.
yeah, it's the biggest state on
But that's all developed except that southwest
I-
corner.
Now, yeah, kind of now we're getting there, but there are some places in the fields that might, not many,
Well, we have that one and the one that we just talked about to the west,
yeah, but there's a little more over in the east that's gonna
but
be left.
that's what's out there right there in that block.
Yeah.
That other corner is gonna go someday. I mean, it's been sell for a while. And they'll build probably 6 more big lots.
And I guess that's
Yeah,
what,
right here, when they ever get it.
No, south.
Oh, right down here, yeah.
Yeah. It's like 10 acres.
In fact, we've had some people looking at that. It's on the market, I think, now,
It's been on the market.
for a while, yeah, but I've had 2 or 3
That's
people
not a
call
big
me.
road, I think that is fine, it's very low density, but up on Merrill Road, I mean, I would say all those fields right there should be, you know, community commercial.
Well, now you've got commercial right
Support
here,
that, though. That's my only thing.
so.
Like, I like the corner, and I'm not saying we should have very low density along the whole Merrill Road, but I'm just asking the question.
Well, I'm just saying like the 2 or 3 fields there. I mean, from what, if you go to the right to Washington Fields Road,
Well, I'm just saying, can that support it?
I think so.
I think that corner definitely, and
I mean, the corner, the little piece above it, and the piece to the left of it, I mean, and then the piece below it, which is the church.
So all that right there on the corner of Merrill and Washington Fields is low density. And Drew, is that 12,000?
10,000 and up.
And up?
that's not a very good spot for it.
No,
So-
for residential,
No,
terrible
terrible.
spot for
So
residential,
that's
right?
probably just been, but I think this is an area that we look at, you know, I look at a lot of large lot residential, and to me, kind of that feathering, that's a stark change. And that's just kind of the land use that I kind of grew up feeling like you kind of feather in and feather out. So it's a little bit of a stark change from low density to even neighborhood commercial, but
But that's how cities evolve, you know, I'll just tell you, you start out, you have residences, and then as roads get bigger,
you know,
then the demand, and Doug will back this up, how commercial becomes commercial, it used to always be residential. You know, when the city was small or whatever, and as the roads grow, then the demand for that commercial happens to be on both sides. And with that being your largest road in your city, when it's built out, Washington Field Road, in its cross section, that's eventually gonna happen. So the Harmons, we don't know. That actually would be a good place to put a strip, something going up around the bend there, right into the Horse Hotel.
and I thought Joan's comments were great the other night because she's part of the Harmon family too, right? And so her comments were just, they don't know still.
Yeah, because people haven't walked up and offered yet.
So that's probably part of the conversation to them, you know, that,
So the other thing is, so you got the 2 big estates, and then you got Blues, that's another kind of a larger,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
so how do you sandwich that all in with commercial? I guess I'm starting to think about those 3 owners, like, are they,
Well, they all got notices, right? I mean, I'll tell you. Lives, y'all had Steve.
Is that the Stookies' old house or? the-
I'm not sure whose this is, but
Yeah,
that's where
that's
Steve
Stevie's
lives. Steve Howcroft is Sunwood Homes.
The Stookies was the one on the
This is-
corner.
that's Fraser.
Yeah, that's our
Stookies got
Stookies
both.
used to
Stookie,
live
then
right here.
Fraser, then,
And those are the 2 that are
Yeah.
out there. And neither one of them, I think, came in on planning commission or city council.
Mhm.
Cause they had to go far, they had to go out to hit that minimum of 30. And that
So
was
even
shocked me
Blues-
that there weren't that many people that showed up on that.
makes sense.
Why? Yeah.
I think that both sides of that corner should be community commercial, maybe even the field to the left, or maybe the field to the left it feathers it into the other stuff and you
I
have
like that.
some townhomes or something right there.
I think it's a great place for some townhomes, not a Mustang Ridge, but a nice,
Right,
a nice
small town. Up along the curve going up, I mean, I think it's a strip of community commercial along the road, because no one wants to live right on that road. You see what happened when we allow stuff, townhome or otherwise, we built right in Washington Fields. They put, gigantic block walls up trying to, because nobody wants to live there.
Towards the back of the.
Yeah,
the
so you
development.
put a little strip of community commercial, up to the Horse Hotel or whatever, and then to the right of it, to the east of it, you put, maybe a little strip over the boundary of those fields right there where the fence is, maybe a little strip of some townhome, area there, and then the rest of it stays the low density. So again, you get some feathering into that commercial. But you get your commercial, you don't have people up in arms, there's not gigantic apartments,
Yeah, I'm kind of glad we went here. This is really, when you go down Washington Fields Road, this is really the only area that's kind of left. When you look north and south, we've either got developments planned or already general planned that way, but this is really it right here.
But this is our main corridor, north-south.
Yeah.
In the field area.
Yeah.
So.
But I just want to point out, this is what if we're gonna funnel in this, I'm glad we kind of went here.
I could see on the Adams piece that's still in the county, that's currently listed as low density, kind of north of Merrill, right in there. I could see those more being a little bit higher density homes,
Right here.
maybe 8,000 square feet or something. I think that kind of cries more residential and try to keep more of that commercial on Washington Fields Road, but
Be a good place for some
I'd do some,
cottage homes or whatever.
yeah, I'd give
Yeah,
it a 6,000 square foot.
even 6,000.
Yeah, let some of our kids actually get a house and
Mhm.
live there.
That would be a good place for some affordable housing and everything in there.
Let them farm it as long as they want,
But
but
after they have to pay the cost someday when that's the only field left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, that's what's happened, unfortunately.
but I think that'd be a thing to at least put a question mark around and say, is that really low density or is that maybe medium or medium high, something like that?
I think we should have a strip. of where you
I'd
go
probably
from
shoot for
lower-
medium right now and then maybe consider if someone had a project for medium high density, didn't mean to cut you off, but just to answer that, go ahead.
I was just saying, when we talked feather, I mean, I don't know what everyone's thought are, if you just did 3 strips where you had low density, medium.
Right into the hill.
Medium, you know, right, and you just say, hey, because it's general, right? It's, and that's a way to do it, to say, yeah, the intent is to feather it up.
It'd be nice to have,
If they want to bring a project that blended a bunch of things
like
together.
along the fields, you have community commercial, then you have a strip of medium high, then if there's enough room, a strip of medium, and then low.
Cause we'd love for our kids to be able to like potentially live in our town or in.
It'd be nice to have that whole, all those homes on the hillside.
I'm saying it might be your
Yeah,
basement.
too.
Well,
Well, like at the top of the curve there, you know, on the top of Nicholas Peak,
so they moved into the coach house.
Let's talk about that.
those two low you can't build low density there. I mean, it's either gotta be community commercial or it's gotta be medium high and put a few townhomes in it. That's the only thing that'll work there.
Go ahead, man.
I know this corner as well as anybody, except for maybe Thad.
Let's say-
Okay, all right, I didn't say over that part.
History. Oh, it's got history, right? I mean,
Yeah, but we broke that back.
It was really hard for those turning out nice. I think Commissioner Anderson makes a good point that you don't typically see residential right up against a busy street. So at some point, it'd be nice to find something that works for the landowner and that's sensitive to that community that could fill that space and even just aesthetically,
I like townhomes.
fill it in.
I know, that's
good.
But the one of the things we gotta
It's hard to drive.
protect is, what I'm seeing is we're developing against Field Road now, is that it's starting to put new landscaping in Field Road. And so it's just obviously space, like a sea of walls. We gotta be, and that's, we try to do that with the solar fields east and north, but I think that's not gonna have very much in between it.
It's all gray block walls.
It's all
so
very,
Can you do something there that's, nightly rentals?
Oh, you wanna really make those residents. Holy
But
cow.
that's a good spot for it.
I was gonna bring up the apartment word, but you said short.
I think your
Did
best,
you not hear me say sensitive?
I think your best bet is
If anybody ever wants to be here, here's from now.
maybe some medium density cottage homes or some medium high density towns.
the reason why I bring townhomes up is because of the grade change, and you can do some
Yeah.
unique things with the grade change with townhomes that you typically couldn't do with a single story house.
You can make that work. And you could maybe even have one small strip that you access from the fields that is, you know, like a little bit of community commercial, I mean, possibly.
What about a little office building?
Where it's like a tiered thing, so the stuff higher up on the hill that you access from the existing road there, that's all townhome type stuff. And then the stuff down, it's like 20 feet lower or whatever on the street, maybe that's a little bit of community commercial, I don't know.
Where am I gonna put my campaign signs?
Carmen's gas station.
I know.
Okay, cool.
Carmen's gas station.
But the way it's at, nobody can do anything. I mean, you might get,
You can't get.
what, you're gonna get one estate house
So-
looking over the road?
So the
back in the
owner on
day,
that
there
would
was
like
so many
direction.
houses.
He's asked me a number of times, some direction. So if you do have some thoughts, again, that's a great community there.
But now's the time to probably do it, Mayor. I think you're right. We don't-
I'll reach out to that landowner and I'll try to get some of that feedback and bring it back through for consideration as we do this update.
I don't know that you have enough tenants out there to put in all these little centers you're talking about.
Commercial centers you're talking.
Then maybe we do townhomes or cottage homes.
Yeah.
Well, since we have the commercial sitting there, and then if we do
Well,
one on
yeah, but if
general.
you
Maybe
go down
just the
there,
corner, maybe the corner is
Yeah.
community commercial and the rest
Then
of it's
you've got,
townhomes.
you got Staley Farm, and all that down there.
It starts to add up a lot, doesn't
Yeah.
it? You start to think about
Well,
those.
no, that's why I like where you're going, Doug, is that we have the stuff at Staley Farm, we have this little piece, that's why I asked you about it, you said keep going, and I'm like, I don't know if we have enough.
I was saying maybe that film, but I actually like the top and bottom of that corner, and then the next piece, like townhomes or cottage homes or something like that, I like that better. So it's not a huge, it's not like another lens right there, it's just a little spot,
Take a lens.
but. Like, but that would be a fun corner to have, like, the same thing that they have, you know, where the creamery is, you know?
Or like the
This one?
junction that's coming in.
Yeah, so that'd be a fun little spot for that.
You talking up here on,
Just on Merrill Road,
Down on there,
Right here,
on
right
both
there.
the top and bottom of that corner, and then everything
just the
else along.
Catholic church is right here.
Yeah, but everything else along that quarter, I would say.
I like horse pasture, but if it can be horse
Cottage
pasture, then
An ice cream.
might as well get an ice cream.
I'm gonna buy that
Hey,
little,
I'm all in favor of someone buying the horse pasture and making it a horse pasture forever, if somebody wants to pay for that,
Commercial price.
you know?
There's a way to do it.
We actually talked.
Up in Summit County, they passed a bond election. So we could bond for $50 million, let the public pass it, add it to their property tax, and we could go buy $50 million worth of open space.
You could ask them, everybody that says they want open space, see if they're willing to pay for
That's-
it.
your money where your mouth is.
Exactly, put your money where your
My
mouth is.
wife would vote in favor.
And if they say no,
As soon as they hear you ask it, price goes up.
hey, when they vote no, and everyone comes clamoring for open space, say, it was on the election, you all voted no.
You can't make people keep it horse pasture.
Exactly.
You have to buy it from.
Yeah.
What other areas, we got about probably 10 minutes, and we should go up and get some dinner. Yeah, what other areas we wanna look at?
What about next
I
to
think
the
Main Street,
St. George? The one you
Main
brought up there?
Telegraph, you know.
from Telegraph up to the freeway.
Okay, let's go north a little bit, and then let's hit those other areas. Councilman Coates, where did you wanna look?
Wherever everyone wants to look, I was just thinking north of town,
Oh, okay.
Oh, north, okay.
well, I'm just saying north.
Commissioner, where are you saying?
I was saying from the new freeway exit down to Telegraph along Main Street. I think that one is, really needs to be looked at, because they're all old homes at some point. We've already had some spot zoning or spot general plan requests.
That we pushed them
and we pushed them
off.
off.
And Councilman Henderson's brought this up a lot in our downtown economic
I
development.
think that whole
committee.
thing should be maybe mixed use, you know, community commercial mixed use. And if,
Half a block on each side.
yeah, and if nobody does anything, they keep the old house
Well,
and
the-
whatever, but.
The infill that you've seen the applications come is if we don't get guided into some mixed use and some commercial uses that make it a usable downtown, then I think we're just gonna see those fill in with townhomes, and I think we've determined maybe there are some better places for those
Yeah,
townhomes.
I think that is a great quarter for mixed use.
Was zoom in just a little
You know,
further.
you give them second, and third floor apartments, main floor is community commercial. And again, if somebody doesn't do it, then it just stays what it is, you got a house there, whatever.
The problem you get is you get one guy that wants to do it, and you got the neighbor next door complaining you built an apartment complex right next to his house, so we just gotta be careful, and we also gotta be careful we don't end up how we have Telegraph, where our commercial pieces aren't big enough to do anything. If we're gonna make it, you gotta make it big enough.
The depth.
Yeah, they have to make it work.
It's Telegraph. I
How
don't
many of
know
those
how big it
houses are
is.
still
Be a block, dude.
residential, or how many were?
Of the whole block.
They're all,
are gonna
everything
be-
on here is residential.
A lot of them are,
The ones next to the freeway, are they
Those are all
still gonna be there?
gone.
most of those are gone.
These, this is all
Who
gone.
owns that property?
This triangle's gone.
it was.
Everything over here is
Yeah,
in,
and then they-
but the on-ramp's gonna come right through there.
And they're like.
Drew, what's the depth of those half block
6,000 to 8,000
lots off of Main
They're
Street?
not official.
Are they 130 or are they?
209, basically the center of it. And there's, you can follow that white line almost all the
Yeah, I
way
would
down,
say that 2 blocks, you know.
which is deep enough for
One
some,
block, you mean? What, two
half a
lots, one
block.
What are they, a half a block, yes.
Half a block.
Side, all the way down.
It doesn't give you a lot of room for parking, that's the problem,
Yeah.
half block.
well, they'll have to buy up lots of homes. It won't be,
Yeah,
If you went a whole block deep.
Hey, well,
You can.
they don't have to change it, I mean,
Yeah, but if you allow one person to do it, I'm just thinking the opposite of, it's the start that's gonna be painful. The end might not be painful, but it's the start. I mean, St. George is experiencing that right now, when they're building the apartments down the boulevard, and right behind it is a single family house, the same thing, so. We just, I'm not saying no,
But
I'm
it's
just
almost
saying.
almost every house there, they're all rentals, 'cause
I'm only saying half a block, cause you have that right now,
Wait for
that line has not been disturbed down the middle of that. North to south on both sides of that, mid-block, 200 feet deep.
You gotta take the whole block.
Well, it depends on what they're trying to do on there, right?
if they buy enough. I mean, most
It allows
eligible piece would be
those-
the big field, obviously.
You're gonna get some homeowners that aren't gonna be okay with the new traffic on there.
Yep.
And if we change the general plan on this, it allows them to
So
have a
that is
little
some,
more value for their lot.
Flexibility.
Yeah, a little more flexibility. They can always stay there if they love it.
But if they
But
sell, they
if
sell.
they
you
don't
money for
love it, they have some more
we
flexibility on their
increase the price of
value.
their value of their home by
Yeah.
having zero plan.
Yeah.
Possibly.
It's
I was
gonna-
say,
it's gonna
in this
evolve.
market, their house, their top dollar is probably residential.
Right now, yeah.
The value will be.
Part of our problem is commercial can't afford to soak up all these homes at home prices, so they just don't ever come there.
Right, but one day it might. True.
Look at what they're doing on these old homes around here, I mean.
But you see some of that in downtown St. George, you see some of that in Cedar City where you have an older home that's been converted into an office or something, and I think that gives a town some character.
In fact, I love offices
I
in
like
old
that.
homes.
I like
Cause
that.
a lot of
They're
architects,
nicer
engineers
homes, 'cause they make it
are
look nice.
buying places like that, turning them into their offices.
That helps with our.
I like at least a half block on either side of Main.
Yeah, it just gives some flexibility.
Well, they end up buying two of them, keeping the nice one, tearing down the other, it's got a nice lot. The other one gets torn out for parking.
It's just the people that are in that house don't have anywhere else to go.
And they're, like, we're seeing two really nice ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, I don't know how they can afford those, but they are.
That's the city hall impact.
Well, yeah, this guy across the street here.
Influence of being close to city
That's
hall.
even more. And right behind us.
Well,
But would we go all the way from the freeway down to what, 100 south on Main? 100
Well,
south?
let's go to the other side of Telegraph, you're saying, right? So this one's a little bit more, I mean, the lines are still there, but
That's down to our,
this is a harder sell because we don't have the the freeway on this side of Telegraph, you have Telegraph, Main Road and the.
I give more
and the
residents
interstate.
on this
This
side
one,
as opposed to rent. Homeowners, I should say.
and established families and.
Yeah, I would
Maybe
say.
leave it alone, but maybe
good
north
thought,
side of it.
good thought, but I think it would be a harder sell now.
Yeah.
Well, I think we maybe think about doing it all the way to 100 south.
100 South is.
That's a
probably
good point.
I think that's.
Yes.
Well, actually, 100 South might already be done.
Overlay it and see.
Well, it's, we would just be taking this
The city.
and this, but we've come down half a block on Telegraph.
Is that,
So we
what's
would-
that designation? I can't, is the HCOM? Is that?
Yes, we gotta get rid of that. This new general plan, it's just the historic downtown that never took off.
Yeah,
Well, Mayor, that's our,
But there's still some ideas to work with on some of the.
we can leave the downtown mixed use zone in. We just change the general plan to give them that option, because it is advantageous for some people to do it. Pushing the buildings up toward the street. I say we just leave it in
Yes.
as one of our community commercial in only on,
A
as
zoning
spell it
that's
out
in
for
that.
Telegraph and Main Street.
Cause you kind of have that 300 east to 300 west corridor.
And now we can throw Main
And
Street
then,
into
and
it,
then Main Street from 100 south to
the freeway.
the freeway.
I like that we just change it.
That kind
And
of
we
what we're talking
only
about.
allow that one zone in that district.
So, we've been talking about the depth of the lots on Telegraph being a bit of a problem. I mean, I could see us going commercial all the way down.
To 100
south,
south.
all the way
Yes.
across,
Yeah,
just
probably.
because if developers come in and they start looking at our properties that we own, they're gonna start saying, okay, maybe we do some parking and.
Yeah.
And that would give these homeowners more value if a commercial.
And if they were having, they didn't want to leave,
Talk
they just
to them
don't sell
about
it,
it.
just stay there.
Yeah.
So,
But at
Yeah,
some point, maybe they want some money or whatever, then they they've got a better value for it.
Yeah, nobody's gonna need to rezone anything on that strip right there. You know, on this area right here, they just won't need, I can't see, well, I'm not gonna say 100%, but I can't see anything coming in, so we change it. They'll stay where they are, they're grandfathered in the R16, and they just go on their merry way until someone comes and gives them that check with enough zeros.
Yeah.
On the back end,
What if somebody wants to buy one of those houses that ain't great and just put his house back on it? Are they gonna be able to do that if we rezone that?
Yeah, cause you can tear a house down, it's, cause we're not rezoning, we're general plan.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, we're not gonna rezone it till then. If they never buy in on the rezone, they don't have to, but
So if this whole zone changed to just C1, just for a drastic example, this house would be what we consider a legal non-conforming use for as long as they do it. The question of whether they just repair or rebuild some of it that got damaged, I think they're able to do that. But if they're just gonna tear it completely off and build a brand new legal non-conforming use, our legal opinion would be that it's now an illegal non-conforming use.
There's a question, how much of the old house that we for it to be a remodel?
We
But what-
look at all.
What Drew's saying is we change the general plan, we don't change.
We don't
the
do the
zone.
zone. Don't change the
So
zone,
if that
yeah.
owner
One
doesn't
wall,
wanna
one
change
wall,
the zone.
Yeah,
okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
we're not-
I understand also. I was trying to think.
Then now let's just say they did join, let's say they joined in with somebody else, like 5 other lots, and got it rezoned, but didn't wanna sell off their thing yet, then it would go to what that said.
Yeah.
They would hold that, but then if they wanted to knock it down, they would.
But I think that's a good point that we all kind of know, but it's just good to keep it top of mind is when you're talking general plan land use designations, you're talking future uses. And we're talking, so that's planning for what it. Thank you.
Yes.
They just put in a retention pond there.
I don't know what happened
What's
on
that
that,
for?
but
That's for the subdivision on the north side.
Across the road.
Drew's done. Steve owned that, about that. Those 7 parcels when the road came through. He used that for his detention basin. But it'd be good to look at those. Do you want to just pull it up on the map? Drew,
I'm
or are you looking
trying.
for the-
So it's my opinion, Councilmember Casperson, I think the church is lobbying to change state law so that they can eventually just have a legal provision to allow St. George to annex those. They made a few small changes last session. I think we'll see more on the annexation laws this session until at some point the church has accomplished what they want. Annex it into St. George.
Then we can go annex their property into our.
Held the appropriate public hearings. We noticed the appropriate landowners and the appropriate municipalities in county. None of them came and protested. We also had an existing land annexation lawsuit with St. George at the time, so we also signed a settlement agreement where both of us and them said we agree to the annexation policy plans. So that's button tight, but the LDS Church and its investment entities don't want to annex into Washington. And we only have just our beliefs as to why.
But we haven't had a lot of conversation in the last couple of years.
Half here, I had a monthly lunch with the LDS Church Property Reserving, asking me what does it take to get this into St. George. So they've advocated that. It built before a building permit was pulled, and there might be things like. Oh, they've not told us why. Their answers are, they think that it can be, more continuous and less disjointed. If it doesn't have to be, the one thing that's persuasive is they want to bring in a whole project for consideration and approval, and they would have to come to us. They can still do that, but those 20-acre parcels would also need to come to this city's decision boards. Even though it can look and feel the exact same, those ones would need their own meetings.
Okay, so Councilwoman Casperson, are you talking about this parcel that,
There's another one.
or are you talking about this piece here?
This piece here,
That's right.
that's the big one.
And if you scroll down a little bit, here's one of the concerns, scroll this down, is there's road connectivity here, and I think there's another one right there.
That's the biggest one right there.
So
St. George annexed to here, Washington annexed to there, but the
This
landowner
piece right here.
hadn't brought it in yet. So our policy plan was to that boundary. There's also sewer lines and other things that are typically on city boundaries on that road.
So I think we need to start lobbying to bring that into Washington to connect it to.
Scroll down a little
these.
bit.
They also
And then-
think that they
The other
can
way,
St. George
sorry.
to give them a lot more density.
Yeah.
Because they've done that on
So that-
boundaries with abandoned. So they would like to see some really high density apartments or condos.
Yeah, so I met quite a few times with the land reserve representative from the church, and he told me that they've got that whole thing planned as apartments and townhomes.
Yeah. And they don't,
Like, if they can get it, that's what they have planned
They
for.
think
They
that
don't
St.
take
George is
mortgages on
more
that.
likely to get that to them than Washington, and that's probably true.
So last one, I want your take on one more. If you scroll up, I want to just show you one little remnant piece. I want to get thoughts on it. Scroll up, no, just down, and then this piece right here.
Something like Keith.
So this little remnant piece right here, this developer bought this section right here after the road came through. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots here. You've got a detention basin here. He's got this little parcel here that's a remnant piece. He doesn't love the idea of a single family home on it. And I kind of agree with him. It's got
Is it big enough to do commercial?
2 or 3 sides of road.
Some low
Is it
density.
big enough to do commercial?
But
Office space, I think.
how would you have staff, or if you talk to me again, what advice or counsel would you give him? Just say you're stuck with it, build a house, or would there be some other thoughts
That's
about what can go there?
I took it to a office guy and he poo-pooed it in a hurry.
So it's not.
I think it's a great drink shop.
There you go.
So you really?
I'm not joking.
You're not
It would
kidding?
be, yeah.
And we'll let it back up in the church parking lot. We have.
Yeah, we come out of church and then.
You're talking like on a Tuesday night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
They have to be closed on Sunday or their Sunday.
I thought you were doing fast.
I know. Second hour will be packed.
Alcohol license for that
Okay, I'm just saying like a small.
A few of
I
us.
don't know what else to do with it, cause I would be.
I wanted to hear that, cause that's.
I think a drink shop or an ice cream shop next to the temple and the church would sell great. Seriously.
Especially
Either one
on,
would sell out.
especially on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really problematic.
when the temple.
You can take Sunday school attendance over there and it probably agrees.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do we do?
All right, thank you, everyone. We've got Rock Tuckles upstairs. We'll close this meeting. Thank you, Steve. You can sign us off. We're gonna go eat dinner and then we're gonna reconvene at 6 o'clock council in the chambers for open public comment regarding Joe Plan. Thank you, everyone. Great conversation, great discussion.
Yeah, other piece of where your signs.
Recording stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. It's